It's okay. Because I'm actually a designer, so
Yeah.
but I think your I mean your influence of your major is really very big to persuade the people through your the movies like that. So
Yeah.
why don't you introduce about your work, how you can achieve
Yeah.
the inclusive society through your work?
So,
Maybe
talking
you
about
can,
my work.
yes, maybe you can show some.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. So before showing any of my work, I have to say, I think through my work, again, there are two ways. The same way I just answered the question, that there are two ways of thinking about inclusion: a direct way and a more critical way, right? First acknowledging and more critical way. Even in my work, I think it's kind of the same. Um, I think there are a lot of work, especially nonfiction and documentary films, which directly address exclusion and talk about, like particular community, show us something that's happening in Gaza. I mean, just yesterday there was Oscars, and the best documentary film is like No Other Land, which is a wonderful documentary film of a Gazan, a village area that's been occupied for a long time, and the filmmaker has been filming it for like 10, 15 years. And finally, they're showing it to the world and getting a lot of recognition what's happening there. So this is a direct approach of telling people, hey, this kind of like horrible things are happening around us. People are getting displaced, they're becoming refugees, or women are feeling particular certain way, the reproductive rights issue in the US, so many issues. I think in my work, however, I do not approach it directly. And this is my choice as an artist, as a thinker or academic. So my work kind of engages these issues in a little bit critical way. So my films, I absolutely agree with you. Films are great tool for advocacy and teach and educate people. But I think my film intends to not just directly educate, but critically engage with whatever the content is or whatever issue that I'm dealing with. So if I give you an example, I in my work, in my work, I absolutely, I think one of the things that I bring a lot is displacement and dislocation and sort of movement in general. But I mean, there are a lot of movies which is about refugees and people who are like No Other Land. The movie I just mentioned is also about someone getting displaced from their house. But I never directly show displacement, or that sort of documentation is not part of my work. I engage with them in a little bit creative way. And how? I'm working right now on a project. It's called I Remember a Place Called Dhaka. So this is a creative nonfiction project or a hybrid nonfiction project, and I can talk a lot about what hybrid means. It's very complex, my filmmaking practice, I also call it like expansive moving image practice, which is also complicated to explain. So I don't think we have that much time. I'm not gonna dive into it. But in this project, in a very simple way, if I give you an example, so I am a displaced person myself. I am from Bangladesh. I was working in Bangladesh on a gay magazine, publishing a gay magazine, which was actually targeted by Al Qaeda in 2016. And two of my fellow activists that I was working with, they were murdered, and I had to leave the country after that. And since then, I haven't been back to Bangladesh. So a lot of my work, in my writing and particularly in my art making, filmmaking, this comes very strongly, this situation. But I kind of bring it not directly, as I said, like I don't do direct filmmaking or just talk about it, but I rather think about like experimenting, different way of experimenting, that how to process this, like as a way of the transformative justice that I just talked about. That I don't want to go and tell people I'm just now speaking in front of three cameras, but I normally don't do it in my film, that this is what happened to me, but rather it's a creative project, and I do something that gives me the creative liberty, and I feel like more empowered, whatever I do. So in this project, I remember a place called Dhaka. What I'm doing, it's kind of like I don't know, like gnarly. I am collaborating with a performer who is in Dhaka, who is based in Dhaka. Remember, I cannot visit the city. I cannot go there. So I'm collaborating with a performer who is performing as me. So they're basically doing things that I want to do in the city. So I'm using kind of like a pseudo body to go to a place that I cannot go by myself. I cannot physically access. And I can show you like a clip. I think this is like in a very early phase production right now. There are like many complications with this project. One being like the safety attached to it, because the people who are filming part of this project are still in Dhaka, and like I need to be careful that everyone is safe. So maybe like this part we can remove it from the video, but I can show it nonetheless to you, like like
Sure.
what's there in that. Do you have time for that?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Would
So-
you like to watch?
Yeah.
So
So
maybe here you can just
you can just probably plug that in.
make skip.
There is one question I would like to really focus on from what the responses we had earlier,
Yeah.
especially with the tokenization and how the
Yes.
DEI was more of a cosmetic solution to exclusion in the past. So, does when we said we were trying to simplify the explanation of inclusivity as a word, so do you think it should go beyond the just an opposite of exclusion? Because now the idea with inclusion, based on my understanding, is that we are creating a need to specify people, to identify those people, because
Yeah.
the idea of exclusion is not specifying those people.
Right.
So is this direct opposite definition is what caused that DEI to form in the first place? Is that definition itself inaccurate in a way?
The DEI.
Yeah, and the inclusion part.
Yeah, I think so. I think that is I think that is also the kind of like what I have learned from life, that nothing gets fixed immediately. So I think you are absolutely right. You are on point about like the current definition of inclusion, diversity and inclusion, and like to some extent also equity, even though they are different etymology and different history. But the way people understand them, it's very like the non-critical understanding is problematic. There are like a lot of problems, and it also implies, think about it, like whoever is talking about DEI, a lot of time it implies that certain people are already included, right? And then they kind of decide that who are not, or like people from that community probably also say that I don't feel included, whatever the reason. But I think like this is you are right, because I don't think this is the right approach of just identifying communities. Is not the right approach. Identifying first, the acknowledgement part that I just mentioned. I think like acknowledging that institutional practice of exclusion, social practice of exclusion, emotional practice of exclusion, it exists in every society, every place I have been on earth, for various reasons I have felt and it could be also your economic power. It doesn't need to be an idea. I mean, this is also, that becomes, if you're poor, that becomes very strong part of your identity. That drives a lot of things in this world. So I think it's never like just identifying. That identifying is probably at some point important, because that gives people some idea. For example, I just said I don't make films which is direct and talk about like whatever, my displacement or something terrible. It's not trauma, porn or whatever. But some people need that, Some section of the society need like a simple understanding of like what does it mean to be kicked out of your country, and not be there and not see your parents for 10 years or more. What does it feel like? I don't want to talk about it. I feel like, a lot of resentment, like, it's not powerful for me. I feel like disempowered. But some people need that. So to mitigate that, I think like we need some storytelling. We need some people to make films which is direct and not experimental and not like complicated, not too intellectual, simple, of telling, look, this is how people get displaced. That's where I'm coming from in terms of a basic understanding of discrimination, whatever. It's just the understanding, acknowledging that it exists, because some people don't even acknowledge. realize that it exists. For some people, like it's, I don't know, like, you know, everyone seems same and everyone has issues. You know, even like I have heard from many like conservative white friends or people that I know that, you know, we all have issues. I have issues. Just because I'm white doesn't mean I don't wake up in the morning and I feel great about life. So some people have the basic, I think, difficulties accepting, understanding that it exists. So we need to come to that, and then what you are saying is a more critical level of engagement. That critical level of engagement, I don't think is not gonna happen without that realization. So that realization is very, it's limited, problematic. It's I would say neoliberal, you know, sort of like apologist, reformist approach. It's very like, you know, all this exclusionary word, but it's not enough. Amazon coming up with this program of black entrepreneurs is not enough. Like, first of all, why they have been excluded for such a long time? Just giving them some money or funding, seed grants is not going to solve this problem. But to reach to that point, we need to have at least that acknowledgement. Now Amazon is saying we're going to dismantle everything. We're not going to even acknowledge that it exists. I don't think that is the solution. So to reach to that point, we have to walk slowly. So one of the things that, and that is the last thing I'm going to say, my very radical activist friends, I have seen from them that they want the best solution, which is like the decolonial, like, you know, dismantle everything, just fix everything. And they hate DEI, not because they are not, they don't believe in inclusion, because they think DEI is an easy fix. It is not critical enough. But with all due respect, I think their activism is also important. I think we all need to say what we need to say, but it's not gonna reach there. That's a very like, you know, idealist form. Like, you know, like it's not gonna reach there overnight. We can aspire for, you know, that kind of higher level of understanding, like critical understanding, like you just shared, but it's not gonna happen overnight. I think to reach to that, we have to walk, you know, slowly, like some simple understanding of inclusion, probably some token DEI projects. I'm saying all this thing on camera. I can't believe I'll be cancelled in academia. Like, Russell is problematic.
No problem.
But I'm an activist, so I have seen
Yeah, sure.
practical stuff, how it happens. It doesn't, practical life is not like, you know, things that we write on paper, like, you know, like the research, or like even like the idealist activist community that I know, that who wants, for valid reason, transformative justice and, you know, decolonize the word inclusion itself.
Well, today is actually we are all foreigners in Japanese society, but anybody can be minority.
Yeah.
At any chance. So it's not only our problems. So anybody can have the same problem at a certain environment.
Yes.
So I think we have to talk about this more honestly, and we have to share our experiences today. So then the students or the people who listen to these stories, maybe they will get more knowledge is how to react this kind of environment or the happens